Welcome to the Cougar Cast here at Kokomo Post Sports. I'm your host, Jay Stevens, and each week we get to talk to the Director of Athletics at IUK and get to hear an update about what's going on with the athletic department at IU Kokomo, and also get to talk to a coach, maybe a player, maybe both, as well, to hear about what they're doing in their particular sport. Like I said, I'm your host, Jay Stevens, and the man to my right, Director of Athletics at IUK, Mr. Tom Norris. Tom, week 2, we're not canceled yet. I'm glad to be back with you.
Glad to be here, Jay. No, week 2, exciting when we got through week 1, the start of classes. So excited to be here and talk about what's going on at IU Kokomo.
Exciting seemed to be the word that we said a lot, used a lot last week to describe what's going on at IUK. Is that same word something we could use to describe what happened over the weekend?
I think so, yeah. It was, we had a couple firsts last week, starting with our volleyball tournament. We had our season opener Friday and Saturday. It was a 13-match, 7-team tournament at the Student Activities and Event Center on campus, the first time we've ever done anything like that. Glaring success. We got a lot of really good feedback from our coaches that were there participating. Just an overall good event, good spectator attendance. It was really competitive volleyball, which I think we all thought was going to happen. And I think from what we had this past weekend, it's going to become an annual event on campus, which is a really cool thing to do.
Kind of went into what was coming out of my mind next was, would it be an annual event? Sounds like from the successful things you stated, it would possibly be one, but then your voice also made it sure that it's going to be one as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Like I said, it was one of the more competitive volleyball tournaments I think that was put together in the Midwest last weekend, and our team came out with 3 wins and a loss, which, for us is we want to win them all, but obviously know that those losses come. But again, just overall from the tournament perspective, it was well organized, well ran. A couple shout outs or kudos to our head volleyball coach, Heather Hayes, our assistant athletic director, Brent Martin, and Grant Patterson, who runs kind of our sports information area. They did a fantastic job. Put together a really, really nice tournament and something that we can look forward to for many years to come.
Well, you also talked last week, not just about the invitational that went down with the volleyball, but also a giving week. And I'm always someone that's looking to help people in any way. It's not always monetarily. It could just be a listening ear or help them move and things like that. I say help them move because I don't always like doing that, but the older I get, more people I'm helping move and things like that. So being able to help people is great. And the Giving Week gave people locally or outside of Kokomo an opportunity to help a school that is trying to help young people. How did that Giving Week go?
Absolutely. I said glaring success for the volleyball tournament and first time doing something. This is the first time we've done the athletics only Giving Week, and I would use the term glaring success with that again as well. So it was a really good week for us. Like you said, it's just an opportunity for us to build some different connections, get people excited about what we're doing, within IU Kokomo Athletics, and give them an opportunity to have an impact on our student athletes and the experience that they get to have on their respective teams and, at IU Kokomo. So, for everybody who did give, we really appreciated it. Very grateful for that generosity, and our student athletes are grateful for it. But if you didn't get the chance to give during Giving Week, I want to make sure that I say that this is kind of a 24/7, 365-day campaign. That's the beauty of the Cougar Club, and kind of what we're trying to create here is that annual giving side of things. So plenty of time left to give, obviously, with the rest of the year here. But, for our first ever athletics only Giving Week, we were very, very happy with the success that we had with that.
Love hearing that. And first thing there with the invitational, first with the Giving Week. Seems like, and I don't know if this was the first, I could be jumping the gun, but I heard there was a young lady that won an award with the conference as well. Was that the first for the school this calendar year?
First for the school this calendar year. Certainly not the first for her. Keely Hoopen-Garner of our women's soccer team was the River States Conference Player of the Week. Tremendous player, special talent to watch. We're lucky to have her back this year. She scored 25 goals for us last year, wow. Which is incredible and a mark that's going to stand for quite a long time, unless she is to go to those lengths again this year, which she's very, very capable of. So excited for that. Very cool honor for her, and not going to be the first one she gets this year, and certainly not the first to come for our student athletes in general. And We're really excited to be able to highlight our student athletes and what they're doing at the conference level. And with that being said, once you get the conference player of the week, you are then put forth for national player of the week. So,
oh, wow.
You get the recognition on the conference level, and hopefully that translates to the national level as well.
That sounds like a great way to boost morale, not just of the soccer team, but just with every body that's a part of the athletics department, coaches or trainers or players specifically. It's a great way to boost everyone's morale, saying, hey, this young lady's doing something amazing, getting recognized for it. You can do the same thing too.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's, we've got a cohesive unit within our entire department, and it's really special to be a part of. And, everybody's rooting for everybody. Everybody wants to see everybody be successful. And I think that's why we're able to do what we're able to do at such a high level, is that support amongst coaches, amongst student athletes, amongst staff, faculty, so on and so forth. So, the opportunity to display the good stuff that we're doing on the field and on the court is exciting. But, on the flip side of that, you'll see as the year goes on, we're going to see a lot of academic stuff that comes out. You're going to see our teams in the community. So I think just the collection of what we're able to accomplish, as a department and as a university is a pretty special thing.
Is there anything else that I missed from the weekend? I have something else I want to go to next, but maybe something from the weekend maybe we missed so far during today's show?
Yeah, just a quick update. Women's soccer played the number 2 team in the country on Saturday, Marian University. Ended up falling 4-0, but, like I mentioned earlier, we want to win everything we go out and do. But, the number 2 team in the country, who I think 2 years ago beat us somewhere 11 or 13-0. So I think that kind of shows you the growth and the strides that we've made in that program, and the direction that Coach Sohaila Akavine has that team going. And again, we want to win them all, but I think it was a good learning experience and a good measuring stick to see where we're at as a team against the number 2 team in the country.
Let's get back to that word first. There's a gentleman sitting in the back of the room today, is the first coach of esports at IUK, and I do believe it's the only co-ed sport at IUK as well. What goes into like the behind the scenes process, as much as you can say, about bringing in a new sport at a college? Yeah,
it's obviously a strategic approach. It's got to make sense in a couple different areas, one being enrollment, one being financial. But we saw esports as an opportunity to kind of give us one of those niche sports that we don't necessarily have. And to be quite honest with you, that not a lot of schools or universities in the state have. I think there's only one other regional IU campus that offers esports, being IU East. So for us to be able to kind of get in on that ground level in a space where we haven't been, but a space that is growing extremely, extremely fast, was a really fun opportunity for us. It was kind of a no-brainer for us, to be completely honest with you. And it just attracts a different type of student and student athlete that we don't have in our department. So all that being said, giving students the opportunity to compete in something that they enjoy doing at the next level, I think is a really fun opportunity. And like you said, you guys will hear from Coach Nick Liegey here in a little bit, but doing a tremendous job and really excited to see where he takes that program. It's off to a really good start, and they'll start competing here in the next couple of weeks, and looking forward to it.
Looking forward to it as well, and getting more reports from you. Have you ever thought about maybe going into one of those practices and trying to play and compete while they're preparing for those I don't even know how you practice. Video games. I play video games, but it's a completely different thing when it's a competitive nature at college and a national all those types of things. Have you ever thought about, hey, maybe let me test my skill set against guys in college? Has that ever crossed your mind?
Well, it has, but I probably get laughed out of the room. Jay, I haven't played a video game in a really long time. But again, it's just a really cool opportunity to see a competitive sport from a different lens than we're used to seeing on our campus. So, again, thrilled to see where this program runs and see what Nick does with it. But off to a really good start, and really look forward to seeing it here take off in a couple weeks.
That's good to hear, guys. We got to hear from Mr. Tom Norris once again, the Director of Athletics at IUK. Coming up next, we'll be back with Nick Liegey, I believe I said his name correctly, the esports coach at IUK. Get to hear from him what it's been like being the first coach at IUK with this sport, and constant things that he's doing to prepare for the first tournament and event that esports has going on at IUK. We'll be right back. We're back here at the Cougar Cast, right here at the Kokomo Post Sports. I'm your host, Jay Stevens. And before the break, we'll hear from Director of Athletics at IUK, Mr. Tom Norris. And the man to my right is not Tom Norris once again. It's the esports coach at IUK, a new sport for the school, Mr. Nick Liegey. And Nick, I asked you earlier, did I say your name correctly? I got it correct prior. Did I get it correct now?
Close enough, right? There was like a little hitch to it, but outside of that, I always say it's like a JG. So then it's Liegey, but then American, just Nick Liegey. That's how I go.
Nick, new sport here at IUK. You're the coach. What does it mean to you to be the esports coach at IU Kokomo?
It's honestly a dream come true. Back probably, I'd say 5-6 years ago, I thought about esports as an avenue I might want to take. I actually graduated with a sport and recreation management degree and had the sights of, I want to be in professional sports. And things kind of changed. I had this passion for video games, and I was trying to look for avenues in which I could kind of find it. And I initially got my first opportunity actually coaching high school esports last year, and now I am taking that jump to the collegiate level, and I am super, super stoked to do so.
What did you enjoy doing at the high school level?
It's just a lot of fun. One, being a coach and being able to create these connections with your players. Outside of that, it was just so fun to see them compete, and at the end of the day, we're trying to win, and it was just an overall goal we kept trying to go for, and we ended up actually getting, I want to say, 2 trophies, one for one of our titles, Overwatch, and Smash Brothers as well.
That's amazing. Now, was that a local school here?
Yes, it was actually Western High School, so not too far from here.
And I think if I heard correctly, Miss Producer Molly last week said the students called you Mr. L?
Yeah, that's Mr.
Yes.
L.
Well, my last name's a little bit weird, so a lot of the students always just call me Mr. L just because it's easier.
It is easier, and I like easy names. Hoping next week there's kind of joking here. This past 2 weeks, we've had a guest here from IUK. So Hayla Akavine, I got that one correct, Tom. But then Nick Liegey, and I'm always going to pause because it's always in my head to stop. But maybe next week there'll be someone that's a little bit easier of a name to roll off my tongue. Do the students ever at IUK specifically kind of like make fun of your, like joke around with your name, pronouncing it and stuff?
Oh, no. Well, now Molly over here will call me Boss Man.
That is true.
But outside of Boss Man, they usually just call me Coach, or I actually have a couple of my former students from Western coming over to IUK here as well, including one of the championship winners for Smash, Cody Kratz. Shout out to him.
How do you go about recruiting people for not just esports, but a new sport at a school? How do you go about doing that?
So having my background already with high school, I had a great connection to a lot of the local schools. So that gave me a massive advantage over any other coach. So I initially was talking to these coaches before the end of their seasons and saying, hey, I have this opportunity lined up. If your kids are looking for that next step, I would love for them to check out IUK. And a lot of them reached out to me, and I'm able to bring not only some Western, I actually have a couple from Hamilton Heights that are also joining me. And from a couple other schools like Kokomo High School, of course, and a few others as well. And I am super stoked to have all of them. They are a great bunch of kids, and I am excited to see, as majority of them are freshmen. So it's going to be a little bit of an adventure from freshman year all the way to senior, and I'm so stoked to see what that senior year will look like for them.
That's phenomenal. I remember when I was in high school, there was a new school, I think it was in Fishers. I want to say it was the first year Fishers High School was a school. They had, I think it went up to juniors. So at the football team, you had freshmen, sophomore, juniors that could possibly play varsity. It's a little bit of an easier way to build a program when you have guys that were previously playing at a different school. You have a new school you're going to, you're a junior. Yeah, you get a little bit extra playing time. Maybe you wouldn't get that at the previous school. Different when you're doing it as with freshmen, like an all freshman class. It's a great way to build things up. You already know you have connections, so it helps you in practice. I want to get to practice here in a second. But also, it's kind of nice, like you get a solid core, solid foundation, and then you're able to build upon that over the next 3-4 years as they're in school. It has to be exciting for you to know that like you have a solid core now that you can build upon for the future.
Yeah, absolutely. I have already kind of instilled my stepping stones already with the program, and they are just going to be that much more stronger every year we go. I have, as you mentioned, we're going to discuss a little bit about practice, but I'm already kind of laying out my ground floor, what my expectations are as a team, and how are we going to get to our end goal, where we're going to not only be a better team every single time we go out there, but how do we take that next leap into hopefully even jumping into higher divisions?
What is practice like?
Yeah. So to answer that, it's going to be a little bit more complex than you probably would like.
Okay. No, go for it.
Yeah. So right now we are competing in 3 different titles. What that means is 3 different video games, one being Rocket League, one being Overwatch, and the other being Super Smash Brothers. And so each practice is completely different than the other. It's something that is, in my opinion, is a huge challenge for an esports coach versus your traditional coach, because you have to game plan and strategize and plan for 3 completely different games. So, for example, Rocket League is probably the most closest to a traditional sport. For those that aren't familiar with it, it's basically car soccer. So, as you can imagine, it's a lot like soccer. So, we're focusing on things like rotation, things like mechanical movements in the game, and how we can maximize our mobility and be in the right spot at the right time in order to outscore the opponent.
I have heard of Rocket League. I had a buddy I used to work with that played Rocket League. He said, hey, you should play it. I was like, hey, it's not football. It's not basketball. I'm not going to. Then he's like, hey, you should play it. I'm like, it's not the sports I like. And then he's like, hey, you should play it. Then he finally started showing me videos of him playing the game on his phone. I was like, hold on, wait, I can actually do this. I never tried it. So Rocket League seems like you said, most traditional types video game, sports game. But also the other ones, with it being 3 different games, 3 different avenues, that strategy has to be difficult, because there could be somebody who's good at one, not good at another, good at 2 versus and not good at all 3. How do you go about trying to figure out who is one? Is there like a ranking system? Like you have like a team of 2, and these 2 guys are a team here, but they're not a team in Rocket League. How do you go about the team element in a sport like this when you're literally playing 3 different games?
Yeah. It's a lot of figuring out where everybody's strengths are. So when we're talking about Rocket League, this is a 3v3 game. And I actually am in this super, super fortunate position where we're actually bringing in 3 freshmen from Hamilton Heights here. And they are already friends and been playing with each other for years. So they already had that chemistry to toss in there. And now I'm getting to add more recruits and toss in a little bit of extra flair to it, and try to now mesh their chemistry together and see how we can keep growing as a team, both our bench and our starters, into competing constantly for that starter role. I told my starters every single day, don't get comfortable, because I want my bench to be taking your spot, and I want my starters to prove that they deserve that spot every single time they play.
This is my kind of coach. I like what I hear so far. I could not be involved in esports at all. I know this. Even if it were Madden or NBA 2K, I'm not even okay. I'm below average in those. But when it comes to coaches that are like my kind of guys, or women, this is my kind of coach here. Being my kind of coach is one thing. I'm sure these students want to challenge you in the games. How does it it's completely different. Like if you have a football coach who's 60 who can't go out there and play running back. It's a video game and you're coaching it, and I'm sure you still play yourself. How does how competitive does practice get when you get down there to play?
It makes it that much more fun. We actually, for the first time for Overwatch, which is a 5v5 game mode, me and my assistant coach hopped on with the bench, and we 5v5'd our starters. And it was an awesome experience for both sides. One, for our bench to be able to see teammates at a higher level, how to play with them, and us pointing out areas to communicate, making good call outs, as well as what to look for, what to see. And then for our starters to then play that higher competition, or their coaches who are telling them to strategize, and being able to kind of mesh that together. And it was an awesome experience. Afterwards, we got to talk and be like, hey, I love that you did this, or what were you thinking here? How can we potentially change that to put yourself in a better position?
Do you have any final thoughts you want to give people about esports, maybe your experience or your excitement, or anything about esports before we close up the show today?
Yeah, my final thoughts is I want everybody to try to be as open as possible. Video games are very new to a lot of people. So if you're older, you may not be into them. I have parents who are very much not into them, but they are in a work in progress, I should say. And if the more open you are to the video game field, the more you'll see them kind of connect over to this actual sports realm. There's a lot of similar elements, and the more you get into it, I promise you, the more fun it becomes.
Really enjoyed today's show. Tom Norris earlier, Nick Liegey to my right just a few seconds ago. I really enjoyed getting to hear about what happened over the weekend at IUK and what is going on with the esports program at IUK as well. Come back next week. We'll hear from Tom Norris once again and someone else a part of the athletic department at IUK, what they're doing and why they're involved in maybe soccer or volleyball or esports or any other sport that IUK provides. This has been the Cougar Cast here at the Kokomo Sports. We'll see you next week.